find a seat. Take your seat next to a family member that you may or may not know yet. Because tonight we are one family. Whether you are here with us for the first time or the gazillionth time, tonight we are one KI family celebrating Rosh Hashanah. We are so glad to have those of you who only join us on the holidays, who come from out of town, Bubby, to be with us on the holidays. Bubby. We are coming together, of course, to celebrate the new year. We are coming to ask for and wish for good things. And so one of our own homegrown, Veronica Picard, is going to lead us in an opening intention. And let it be our intention for this whole High Holy Day season, the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, the 10 days in between, Oseh Shalom, that the movement in this universe for justice and equity and compassion should help move all people to work for a time of peace. We know that there are many people who are coming in. Veronica, we are so blessed to have you with us, and we know as people are coming in, we're gonna have this, where we're having something amazing happen up here and people coming in. It's okay. We know that family arrives at different times for dinner, even when everyone's sitting down and the turkey's perfect and ready to go. things happen and we know there's a lot of traffic. So if we can just make it easy as we can for people coming in to come in, even while we have amazing, wonderful, moving things happening up here on the Bima. It's Rosh Hashanah, and the commandment is for us on Rosh Hashanah to hear Kol Shofar, to hear the sound of the shofar. And the rabbis say, if you blow into this end of a shofar, not much happens. We have to make ourselves small. Over these next days, we do the work of tzimtzum, of drawing in, of becoming humble, of becoming contrite. And when we really go there, when we make ourselves small and make ourselves ready to do tshuva, when we blow into the small end, we have a powerful sound that comes out of the shofar, the sound that we hope will call us into deeper relationship. And so from our sacred scriptures, B'chodesh hashvi'i, be'echad lachodesh, yiyeh lachem Shabbaton, zichron tru'ah, mikra kodesh, kol melechet avodah lo tasu. In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, there shall be a sacred assembly, a cessation from work, a day of commemoration proclaimed by the sound of the shofar. Our wonderful, amazing, fantastic new assistant rabbi, Nick Renner, will bring us into the High Holy Day time with the sounding of the shofar. Turn to someone next to you, wish them Shana Tova, Happy New Year. While you're kissing and schmoozing, I know this could go on forever, turn to page 23. That means you have to find a machzor. You have to find Rosh Hashanah Eve. Page 23. Let's read responsively. This night, as the new year begins, we come together as a community, yet each of us is strangely solitary. Each of us has a story no one else can tell. Each of us brings praise no one else can offer. And so, at this sacred time, we pray. If we are weary, may we find strength. If we are discouraged, may we find hope. If our hearts have been chilled by indifference, may we be warmed by renewed purpose, inspired by the Spirit of this holy night. There are those of us who work in the Jewish world hoping to bring you what you want and need at this time of year. None of us who work as Jewish professionals could do what we do if it weren't for those people who support us all the time at home. Those who help our children deal with the reality of our lives. Those who are so patient and generous with us. Those who also share your concerns and bring them to us as well. We ask those who live with us clergy, who suffer us clergy all year long, to come this night and be honored with lighting the candles for Erev Rosh Hashanah. We turn to page 28. clergy Rebbitzin team. We'll ask Sarah Stoll to come up and lead us in the Shechianu, the bracha. We always say at a new time, at a new season, for firsts, for beginnings, for exciting new starts. Ken Ehrlich, come. He's going to lead us. You all can turn to page 30 and find the reading Ken is going to do below the line by the amazing poet Mary O, a member of our board of directors.
Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel into the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? What else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Each of you made the decision to be here tonight. Good. Welcome home. Welcome home. And so we each have gotten here on our own. We all have stories from the day, from the week, from the months, from the last year, maybe since we've seen each other. Right now, we are not just a collection of individuals in this space. We are a kehillah. We are a congregation. We are one congregational family. And the rabbis have us declare our intention of becoming a kehillah kedosha, a kehillah ready for evening worship with the call to prayer. And they have us change our posture when we need to pay attention to what we're doing. So they ask that as we are able and comfortable doing so, we get to our feet and we call ourselves together with the call to worship on page 62, the Baruch. below the line in our prayer book is where you find some of the most juicy and interesting stuff. We invite you, as we work through our services over these high holidays, to immerse yourself in what you find below the line. Here's one of them on page 61. This is the time when one day ends and another begins. But the moment of transition is imperceptible. So too, Rosh Hashanah begins as the borders of the old and new years touch. What we accomplished in the year that is ending blends into the year that begins. What we hope for in the year that is starting illuminates what we must leave behind. Asher Bidvaro, the Hebrew text on page 62.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim בחוכמה פותח שערים ובתבונה משנה איתי ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברק יכיר צונו בורא יום ולילה גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד תמיד ימלוך תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד לעולם ועד לעולם ועד ימלוך ברוך אתה
And we'd like Chrissy, Jason, Jackson, and Callie Blumenthal to come forward to lead us on page 67 in prayer, the alternative version, to Asher Bidvaro.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
It is not you alone who pray, or we, or those others. All things pray, and all things pour forth their souls.
The heavens pray, the earth prays, every creature and every living thing. In all life there is longing.
Creation is itself but a longing, a kind of prayer to the Almighty? What are the clouds, the rising and the setting of the sun, the soft radiance of the moon, and the gentleness of the night?
What are the flashes of the human mind and the storms of the human heart? They are all prayers, the outpouring of boundless longing for God.
Rabbi Nick Renner is going to come now and talk about what Julie Silver's going to offer up.
Ahavat Olam, love. Of all of the different ways we have to think about and reach out to what we consider to be holy in our lives, to what we consider to be sacred, the way that we connect with one another, the ways in which we feel ourselves, as Rabbi Bernstein said, to be a family here tonight. What flows through all of that is love. And to get at our understandings of God, all of these different lofty conceptions and theological pieces, really what it comes back to, what it returns to at the end, what holds all of that up is love. And so as we enter into the Ahavat Olam, we get to hear a piece of God's love, of the way in which God loves us, loves the world, loves all of living things and creations. And we get to experience some of that love here tonight in this family. Julie Silver for that beautiful piece, a piece of her own composition itself. We continue now with the Shema. The Shema, it just starts with this one word, listen. If you want to get to know something or someone or an idea, or you want to connect with somebody, the first thing to do is just to listen, to open your ears, to open your mind metaphorically, to be receptive to whatever it is. That piece, just listening to what may be. And as we turn to the Shema, this is an invitation also to turn to that voice within, where we hear what is divine, what is sacred, and to be present with one another and simply listen. So please rise as we continue with the Shema on page 76. We also invite up Mary and Chuck Rappaport to open the art.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam
Please be seated. We continue with Via Hafta, and I want to invite up Lola Ellenberg.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
So now I want to invite up Linda Rubin.
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in thy heart, shall be in thy heart. Thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou risest up, and when thou liest down, and when thou liest down. Thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hands, and they shall be for thy gate, and upon thy gate that ye may remember and do all of my commandments and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
Thank you, Linda, for sharing that beautiful rendition with us. We continue with Micha Mocha on page 90. Micha Mocha, a rhetorical question of a prayer, just as the Israelites had crossed the seas, having left Egypt. This moment of who is like God? Wow, how amazing is that? And so this year, as we stand on the edge of a new year, I invite you to think about those moments that you've crossed the sea over the past year. What is it? What are those sort of impossible and far away places from which you've come to arrive here on this day with this family? So now we have Audrey Kaller, or Micha Mocha.
Many nights we prayed with no proof anyone could hear. In our hearts, a hopeful song we barely understood. And we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? See how you will. You will when you believe.
Ashira l'Adonai ki gaoga. Ashira l'Adonai ki gaoga. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha ne'edar בקודש נחית וחסדך עם זו גאלת נחית וחסדך עם זו גאלת אשירה אשירה אשירה
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to give. But who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? See how you will. Now you will. You will when you believe. You will when you believe.
When you believe, you can make things happen that were impossible moments before. Our own Audra Keller knows something about that, and knows something about how to make that happen, and knows something about that out of her own addressing of serious illness. We come to a time of holding those who are ill in our care. You hear this young person. You hear that amazing voice that now is informed differently out of her own experiences. And we truly believe people like her and all that she inspired can help us hold those who are ill and change the world, this world, for the better. In the future, that there can be cures and different ways to address the illnesses that we know, the conditions that we know, and just being present to those who are struggling with any kind of illness, any kind of brokenness. Our being present to them and inspired to be present differently can make all the difference, as even science is telling us now about companionship and togetherness. For the first time here at Wadsworth, first of all, that we are all together is a wonderful new custom we've started in the last several years, which is wonderful to see all of us here, this KI sanctuary folk and all the clergy from both of those venues together, all of you here together, all of us together on Erev Rosh Hashanah. And so for the first time, as our time of holding those who are struggling with illness or recovery in any way comes to us at this Rosh Hashanah Eve, 4 of your clergy, those who are leading services everywhere over these High Holy Days for KI, offer a prayer for healing on behalf of all of those that you will name if you are willing to do so now, or name in your hearts if you don't want to do so out loud.
Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech v'yiraper et
May those we've named, those who remain unnamed, and anyone present who needs it, know a refuat nefesh and refuat guf, a full and speedy healing, both of body and of spirit. And we say together, Amen. Turn to page 91 in our Machzor. The rabbis knew well that nighttime comes with its own sense of vulnerability. And so they give us every night the Hashkivenu. Those of us who send our kids to Jewish overnight camps have many versions of Hashkivenu that they come home with, singing in their cabins at night along with Shema. Hashkivenu in English on page 91. Let's read together. Help us to lie down, dear one, our God, in peace. And let us rise again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Decree for us a worthy daily lot, and redeem us for the sake of your great name, and enfold us in the wings of your protection, for you are our redeeming guardian. Truly a sovereign, gracious, and compassionate God are you. Guard our going forth each day for life and peace, now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Blessed are you, compassionate one, who spreads your canopy of peace over all your people, Israel, and over Halavai. Hashkivenu.
Adonai Eloheinu Shalom Ve'ha'amideinu Malkeinu L'chaim Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shelomecha V'taknenu be'etzah tova milfanecha V'hoshienu L'ma'an shemecha. Milfaneinu
On pages 97 and 98. Julie Silver, would you like to do something about blowing shofar, this tik'u, bashofar business?
Yes, let's all sing along together.
Let us read it together on page 97. What we just heard so beautifully sung. Together we read, blast, piercing. Let me hear you. Read it. For the full moon. The statue of the god.
Great good fortune tonight to hear some words at this new year from our new assistant rabbi, Rabbi Nick Leonard.
Shana Tova. On the evening of June 28th, 2014, my wife, Kimmy, and I left the second floor apartment at 5466 Vicaris Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We loaded the last of our belongings that hadn't already been shipped into my Honda Accord. That evening, I used a power drill to dismantle the bed frame I had built from scratch with my friend Will Gardner back in 2011 when we first moved in. While I dismantled it, Kimmy went through and did the final sweeping and scrubbing and cleaning of our 2-bedroom row house in Philadelphia. We had everything in the car, and Kimmy was just arranging the last couple of things when I went back upstairs for the last time. Overtly, I wanted to make sure that we hadn't missed anything. But I think on an underlying level, I just wanted to walk through that space one last time. We had lived in that apartment for 3 years. In the course of those 3 years, we had gotten married. I'd gotten an incredible job in a region where I'd never been before, across the country from everything I'd ever known. Lastly, earlier that same month, I graduated from the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, and now I was a rabbi. As I walked through our 2-bedroom apartment for the last time, my footsteps echoed. Without the carpet, the couch, and the chairs, all the trappings of home, the space even sounded empty and cavernous. With the final loading of our car, that apartment transitioned from being a home to being an apartment. A couple of weeks ago, I met the couple who would move in after us, and I'm sure the space provided them with a wonderful blank canvas in which to create their home. But as we departed that night, driving out on Interstate 76, I was aware that I had just left home. So what is home? Is it a feeling? Is it a place? Is it real and tangible? Or is it fleeting and ephemeral? In thinking about home, I'm reminded of the Yiddish adjective heimish. I looked it up and it comes from German. Literally, the word means home-ish or home-like. Even if you don't regularly use that Yiddish expression to describe home, you've probably heard or said some variation of the expression, this feels like home, or make yourself at home. But the really crazy thing about saying that something feels like home, when you say something feels like home, you're actually implicitly admitting it isn't home. It's almost an act of willful self-deception. You're uplifting the sensibility or feeling or evocation of home while also owning that you're not in fact home. I was trying to think if I'd ever heard anyone say it feels like home in their own home, but the closest I could imagine in my mind's eye was having heard relatives or friends say, gosh, it feels good to be home. In thinking about home, I also think about my experiences in Israel. I've probably been there a dozen times now, and I've lived there for a couple of years. I remember the first time I went, I was 16, and I got to experience Israel through the lens of the poetry of Yehuda Amichai, in an experience crafted by my rabbi from growing up in North Carolina, Rabbi Steve Sager. I found it to be deeply powerful, but I remember experiencing a dissonance. I remember going with expectations of going home on some level. But when I got there, the place smelled different than North Carolina. It looked different. The food tasted different. And as a 16-year-old, I didn't know what to do with that. I desperately wanted it to feel like my home, but I felt that as a living, breathing place in its own right, that it was different than what I held as home. The dissonance that I experienced was the dissonance of mapping a concept that is as personal as it gets, the concept of home, onto a completely new place, living and breathing with its own vibrancy, different from anything I had ever seen. It took a few years for Israel to really feel like home to me, despite my returning numerous times. When I was 22, I moved to the city of Netanya for a year, and I wound up playing lead guitar in an Israeli band. It could perhaps have been an experience of feeling very, very different. I was the only native English speaker in the band, and the others in our 5-piece group only spoke English to varying degrees. They were native Israeli citizens, whereas I held a foreign passport. But through this musical connection, they opened their homes to me. Some of my most powerful memories of being at home in Israel link me to small towns and villages outside of Netanya, places like Geulim, Telmond, and Kfar Saba. We would practice in our drummer's basement in Beit Yoshua, and when we'd step outside to take breaks, we'd walk through the citrus grove behind his house, pick a couple of grapefruits off the trees to share over beers or glasses of arak. And ultimately that year, I spoke Hebrew pretty fluently. Living with those guys, drifting between their houses, driving the back roads between farms and villages, it resonated with me as a native North Carolinian. Suddenly, the idea of being at home in Israel ceased to be abstract. As I immersed myself in music and the life in small-town Israel that I had found, I realized I was home. And to this day, it strikes me as strange sometimes that I would feel more at home on my rhythm guitarist's farm in Geulim than I would in most American cities. But that's the nature of home. At the end of the day, it's intensely personal. It's what the place smells like and what the food tastes like. It's what it feels like to be with the people that make up home. With Israel, the more deeply you can experience the living, breathing dimensions of the place, the more deeply it can transform you. And finding home in Israel in this way has profoundly shaped my life. So what does our tradition, then, have to say about being home? I spoke with my rabbi from North Carolina, Steve Sager, and in our conversations, one piece that emerged is found in the Torah. It's in Parshat Behalotecha. It's Numbers 12. You've got a section in there where God is really angry with Aharon and Miriam and ends up punishing Miriam. How this resonates with us in terms of fairness is an important but separate conversation. Regarding home, what's interesting here is how God contrasts Moshe with everyone else. God says with other prophets who aren't Moses, God speaks to them in riddles and parables. It's obfuscated by its very nature. But with Moses, God speaks straightforwardly. And what reason does God give for this? God says, Bechol beiti ne'emanhu. In all of my house, he, Moses, is trusted. In Targum Yonatan, which is a local Babylonian translation into Aramaic, it says, Bechol beit Yisrael ami, or in all the house of my people Israel. Targum Yonatan is doing a little bit of editorializing here. When God says my house, what it really means is in the people. So God's bayit, Hebrew for home or house, isn't a physical construct at all. Home is really about people. Now this Hebrew word bayit is interesting in that it does encapsulate both house and home. From growing up, I can attest that home is bigger than a house. When I was young, I thought that home was essentially something that was visited upon me from without. My parents divorced when I was young. When I was with one or the other of them, they would talk about going home. Okay, we're going to go home now. But I always held in my own mind this binary of mom's house and dad's house. It wasn't something that I could even really easily talk about with them. Home was a very fractured thing for me growing up. In August of 2003, I moved into my first college dorm room, 303 Aycock Dormitory, Duke University, East Campus, Durham, North Carolina. This was the first time that home was something that I created. It wasn't something that was constructed as a function of the choices of others. August in North Carolina is often close to 100 degrees with thick humidity, and the windows in this room were too small to actually affix an AC unit, so I had a little box fan. But this suffocating little closet I found myself in that August was really my home on a profound and a new level. Part of what made it home were the little touches of mine that converted it from a dorm room to something personal. Offhand, I can think of two that filled the space. There was much space to fill. The first was a little lamp that looked like a Chinese takeout box with a light sort of coming up from the middle of it. And the second was a huge door-sized poster of Jimi Hendrix that I bought on the second or third week at some big poster sale. And those little touches converted it from some room in some dorm to a home. When I think back to leaving my apartment in Philadelphia back in June of this year, it was the absence of those personal touches. That marked the moment at which that home reverted back to a room. One of the little touches in many Jewish homes is the mezuzah. Kimmy and I now live in a one-bedroom apartment, so we have 2 mezuzot up. One on our front door and one in our bedroom. The mezuzah on our front door was a gift from Rabbi Stephen Carr Rubin, our beloved Rabbi Emeritus. Rabbi Rubin gave me this mezuzah when we were visiting LA in May, the first time I was here, actually, after having accepted the position of assistant rabbi here at KI. It was the first time I came to KI as part of the KI community. And as for the mezuzah, it was made from wood, from the Aron Kodesh, the Ark of the old building. This small talisman, no bigger than about this big or so, carries both the history and the tradition of this institution. And for me, it carries the future, a rich future with my beautiful new community, for God willing, many sweet years. The other mezuzah is from my rabbi from Durham, Rabbi Steve Sager. That one hangs on the doorpost of our bedroom. Rabbi Sager officiated our wedding back in 2013, and as a wedding gift, he gave us a carved wood mezuzah made by one of the congregants of my childhood community, Congregation Bethel in Durham. Here in LA, in this new building, in a new part of the city, in a new part of the world for me, affixing these 2 mezuzot and reciting the blessings for each one was part of the process of affixing home. As the holidays unfold, I'll be continuing to share some of my reflections on leaving home, arriving home, and the journey in between. For now, I want to leave you to consider home in your life. As I mentioned, there have been times that home was something that was imposed upon me, but a large part of my own journey has revolved around taking an active, agentive role in discovering home, creating home, and affixing home. As we enter the new year, 5775, it is upon us as individuals and a sacred community to reflect upon the ways in which we create home, we discover home, we affix, and we consecrate home. In closing, I want to share some words from Psalm 27, the traditional psalm for the month of Elul, the month of the Jewish New Year. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh, shivti b'veit Adonai, kol yemei chayai. One thing I ask of God, one thing I seek, that I shall dwell in the home of the Blessed Holy One all the days of my life. In reciting Psalm 27 this year, I can't help but think of how blessed I am to be in my new home here in this sacred community of Kehilat Israel. Shana Tova.
The rabbi he grew up with, Rabbi Steve Sager, is a Reconstructionist rabbi. Rabbi Nick Renner grew up with a Reconstructionist rabbi. He comes to you truly homegrown. We'll turn to page 103 and 104 and give ourselves the opportunity to marinate in the words of Rabbi Renner and the intentions that have gotten you all here and have brought us through the service thus far. We take some time to be together on the same page, and we open the prayer books of our heart, and therefore each of us is on a slightly different page. But we come together in sacred silence as one community to truly allow ourselves to enter this new year, to enter these high holy days. We rise as we are able for the Amidah, which begins on pages 103 and 104. Hasidic tradition understands that the music of a piece carries us where sometimes even the words of the liturgy cannot. And these days that we are beginning together starts with this celebration of the new year, a true celebration that we should be looking forward to happiness and health and good things and to affirm those. So they give us a rousing rendition of a full Kaddish to close our time of meditation. The cantor and the choir will lead us. If you want to sing along, please do. Tap your feet, tap the arm of the person next to you, whatever, but join in the incredible joy of starting this new year together.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רעו וילמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכם וביומכם וחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. ושירתה תוש בחתה ונחמתה דאמירן ביעלמה דאמירן ביעלמה ויאמרו אמן תתגבר צלו קדם אבוהם די בשמיה די בשמיה די בשמיה ויאמרו אמן יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים וחיים עלינו עלינו ויעל כל ישראל ויעל כל ישראל
beloved cantor would say, "Umain." It is now our privilege to hear from our president, Michael Erev.
Good evening and Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
So I was asked to share with you a little bit about what's been going on around the congregation in the recent months and our joy and outlook for the future, and I will do that. And I have some prepared remarks, but I wanted to start off text, as I think they say in business. The reason I want each of you to strive to become the president of this congregation is the joy. Now there's surus. There are some moments of pain and suffering, but the pleasure of working with our clergy, our senior rabbi, our cantor forever, our other cantor, and the kid who is this wonderful rabbi that I adore already, Rabbi Renner. So strive to become president, and someday you too can have a hand in these beautiful services and worry about all the things that we worry about. Okay, now, Shana Tova, oops, I said that. I am Mike Lurie, and I'm president of KI. And as most of you know, I'm starting the second year of my painfully short 2-year term. It just seems like yesterday that I was up here last High Holidays and speaking about the year of transition and the exciting times and everything that was going to be happening to us. And all of a sudden, here we are, and the year's gone by, and frankly, we are steaming ahead, and I wrote down here, living our new reality. That's what we're doing. We are living our new reality, and I'm loving it. First, I want to officially welcome our new senior rabbi, because that's been done yet tonight, Rabbi Bernstein, who is a wonderful the committee that helped me write this said we're beyond blessed and thrilled. I'm just blessed and thrilled to have you as our senior rabbi. I'm not sure where beyond goes. I wanted to welcome also Judy and Eliana, who's not here tonight. It's after that. Oh, she is! Eliana! The family is all here to share with us. I was supposed to welcome Nick Renner and his lovely wife, Kimmy, and they're from Philadelphia, but we know that now. We also know that a house is not a home, necessarily. He is wonderful, they are wonderful. Rabbi Renner is from the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, which I cannot say fast, RRC. And we are truly honored that both of our rabbis are graduates of our denominational organization, and we're excited about that. I wanted to mention to you, because I was shocked to hear this a year ago when I became president, that we, KI, are the largest Reconstructionist congregation in the world, because there really aren't any outside of the United States, with our 1,000 families. We are the flagship of this movement, and we are doing the best we can to steer a straight course. I would be remiss in overlooking a dominant and wonderful member of our clergy. Cantor Frankel he's a friend of all of us. He's been here. This is his third year. And I know you all share my feelings that we're blessed to have Chaim lead us for 3 decades. You know, I did work as a lawyer for over 4 decades. You've got time to go, Chaim. And we wish and pray for more than 10 more years with our beloved Cantor. I mentioned last year during the High Holidays that KI's connection to Israel is one of our strongest principles. The Rabbi Renner mentioned that. We hold biennial family missions to Israel, and I think biennial means every other year. I hope so. Sometimes it's more often, but generally every other year. And these are family missions. We had this summer Rabbi Bernstein, Cantor Frankel, our executive director, Matt Davidson, and our director of programs and marketing, Julia Hubner, all wonderful people and leaders of our community. They and 72 members of KI, mostly families, traveled together to Israel. I wanted to take a moment to point out that 6 years ago, my wife Lori Hazenkamp and I, with my 2 children, their spouses, and 4 grandkids, went on a KI mission to Israel. And so when I tell you that these are bonding experiences, I say it from experience and from my heart. They're wonderful. Almost half of the participants are young adults and children under 16 years of age. I'm not sure where the line is between children and young adult, but it's somewhere in those early teen years. For my grandchildren, and for I hope the children that go on these trips now, I hope they find that they're instilled with the same love for Israel and the same connection to the people of Israel that I felt on my first trip to Israel 30 years ago, and I've only been there 3 or 4 times, Rabbi Renner, but I hope to catch up to you soon. This year our congregation had a very special, wonderful occasion in Israel. Cantor Frankel and Marcy Frankel's daughter, Molly, beautiful Molly, was bar mitzvah there. And I heard a very lovely ceremony, and congratulations to you. It's not in the script, but I'll point out that November 28th at our Friday night service, we're going to celebrate that occasion, so you all come, and we'll have a really big oneg to follow. Our Israeli mission also had its challenges. It took place during the Gaza conflict. So our congregants had a first-hand view of the challenges faced by our people of Israel, in Israel, and I don't need to describe them. But in addition, our congregation reached out to our membership to raise funds for the FIDF, the Friends of Israel Defense Forces, to provide support for them. This past Sunday, it's called the KI Recyclers. 19 people that rode in a Jewish Federation bike race, and we raised over $17,000 to provide scholarships for children to attend a Jewish summer camp. And our total was 4th overall of the 50 teams throughout the city of Los Angeles. So all of this says to me, it points to our traditions. Tzedakah is up there. I didn't see Tikkun Olam. As I tell new bar and bat mitzvahs when I hand them their tzedakah box, tzedakah means righteousness, but we take it to mean charity. One of the strengths of KI, one of our founding principles is charity, not just for our congregation, not just for the Jewish community, not just for Los Angeles, but truly the world. Tzedakah means charity. Tikkun Olam means heal the world. And that's one of our very strong goals. The example of supporting Israel defense and of sending children to summer camp are just two little examples of the kind of Tikkun Olam that we go through all the time. Now, since this is a time of atonement, and I was researching this, although not in the depth that Rabbi Ritter did his remarks, I want to share the Midrash, which says that tzedakah is considered to be one of the 3 main acts a person may perform to annul a less than favorable heavenly decree. So friends, you've got a week. No dues. I have a good thing you can do. Every year we conduct a food drive for the West Side Food Bank. Every year our goal is to raise, get more food than we got last year. Since Rachel Jeffer, who is sitting here in the front and is in charge of this and does a wonderful job, introduced online grocery purchasing last year, we now have a new target of 85,000 pounds of food. If you look at one of the back pages of this, when it's 6-sided, it's actually at the back page, but there's a Holiday Days food drive note there. And if you go to the website, www.ourki, thank you, Stephen Lewis, how do we pronounce it, org, /food drive, you can find out how to go online or bring a bag of groceries tomorrow when you come, or Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre. Rachel and her minions are there by the canisters collecting food, and our goal is to bring a new high for that. Every dollar spent online feeds 4 people, and we're going for new goals. I wanted to mention our Early Childhood Center and our Jewish Experience Center, our 2 schools, are thriving. We educate and we involve our youngsters in Jewish tradition and Jewish learning. I wanted to mention that I got the pleasure and good fortune working with a really wonderful board of trustees. We're active and we're involved, and we're going to be at our retreat the end of the first week of November from noon on Thursday, or 11:30 on Thursday, through services on Friday, plotting for the next year of our little temple's history. I also want to thank our amazing senior staff, and I don't have time to name you all. I also want to thank the other people behind me, and the choir, and the others. At Yom Kippur, I get to mention your name, not everybody's name, but as a group. These services are wonderful. I love to sit here and listen and share, and I hope you do as well. On Yom Kippur, I will get to express my gratitude to people individually, including Bert Kleinman, who's hiding somewhere back here, and arranges all the volunteers and all the speakers and everything, and he goes crazy for months before tonight. But I will close with a Shana Tova to all of you. There are, as we say in the KI biz, 24/7 activities in our beautiful temple. Find something, Torah study, whatever it may be that is your pleasure. Shana Tova to all of you and all of us. May it be a year filled with sweetness, joy, good health, and of course, community service and Tikkun Olam. Thank you very much.
So one of the things we hear a lot is that we have preschool, and then we have the JEC, the Jewish Experience Center, and then people wonder what happens to our teenagers. We have amazing programs at KI. We have KIT, the KI Tzedakah Teens. 50 teenagers are involved in KI Tzedakah Teens this year, giving thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars away that they help raise, and their raised funds are matched by generous donors through KI. We've struggled, though, to find more meaningful and broader ways to engage our teens. So we, this year, have a program called Mitzvah Masters. You are here to witness the first graduating class of Mitzvah Masters. They received the following letter. We are so proud that your bar or bat mitzvah was the foundation for continued Jewish learning and service through your high school years. Along with sports, music performances, academic classes, and everything else that you've accomplished, you made time during your high school years to invest in Jewish learning and community. This takes commitment, organization, and a heart open to the joys of Jewish life. You are an inspiration to members of our congregation, children and adults alike. We would like to call the first graduating choice, they do this by choice, class of Mitzvah Masters, so that you can really help them to understand how proud we are of them. So, Cantor Frankel, would you like to read the names of our first Mitzvah Masters?
So, Eliana Blake, if you're here, please come on up, but at least they will receive their certificates. So, Eliana Blake and Erica Bloom, Julia Browdy, Tara Coughlin, Claire Dannenbaum, Alana Enton, Olivia Feldman, Jacob, if you're here, come on up. Jacob Goodman, Zachary Handler, Erica Jaffe, Joshua Kirshner, William Lewis, Tristan Marsh, Rachel Martin, Eliza McHugh, who's at Berkeley, Adam Rosen, Daniel Roth, Micah Salas, Zachary Senator, David Taylor, Bryce Turman, Hannah Wasserman, and Caleb Zacharin. Please come on up, and let's hear it for our wonderful Mitzvah Masters.
Some of them are already away at college. Come on up. We are so proud of them for choosing to take this on. Always at this part in our service, we ask our past presidents to join us on the bima for Kiddush. This year, we wanted our Mitzvah Masters up here with our past presidents. Our past presidents are the leadership that have gotten us to where we are. We stand on their shoulders, and we thought there was not a more fitting thing in this world than to have the next leaders of the Jewish community up here as our past presidents. Honor us and them with your presence now on the bima for Kiddush. We'll turn to page 1198. Thank you, Linda Rosen, for all you've done to make this a reality, to make this possible.
Please rise.
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kra'anu la'avodato, רוממנו בקדושתו, וקידשנו במצוותיו, ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה. את יום הזיכרון הזה, יום תרועה בעבר, מקרא קודש, מקרא קודש, זכר לציאת מצרים. כי אלינו קראת, ואותנו קידשת לעבודתך, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה מלך על כל הארץ, מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל, ישראל ויום הזיכרון. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימן והגיענו לזמן הזה, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת, page 1201.
Jason and Courtney Harrow and Estelle Alper are opening the Ark for Aleinu.
בתוכנו
אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים
לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 1207. It is up to us to hallow creation, to respond to life with the fullness of our lives. It is up to us to meet the world, to embrace the whole even as we wrestle with its parts. It is up to us to repair the world and to bind our lives to truth. Therefore we bend the knee and shake off the stiffness that keeps us from the subtle graces of life and the supple gestures of love. With reverence and thanksgiving, we accept our destiny and set for ourselves the task of redemption.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ
ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד. We invite 3 generations of the Elfon Festa family to come forward. Flo Elfon, Jeannie Festa, and Daniela Festa to come forward to lead us in a reading before Kaddish, which you will find on page 1214 of your machzor.
In praise of the living, Yitkadal v'Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. This profound praise of the living, praise for the generous gift of life.
Praise for the presence of loved ones, bonds of friendship, the link of memory.
Praise for the toil and searching, the dedication and visions, the ennobling aspirations.
Praise for the precious moorings of faith, for courageous souls, for prophets, psalmists, and sages.
Praise for those who walked before us, the sufferers in the valley of shadows, the steadfast of the furnace of hate.
Praise for the God of our fathers, the source of all growth and goodness, the promise of which we build tomorrow.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah. This, the profound praise we offer. Praise for the generous gift of life.
On page 1216 of your Machzor, we come to Mourner's Kaddish. We close every time together as a people, remembering those we've loved and those we have lost. So much of who we are was shaped, birthed, formed, and loved into being by them. We'll take a moment and have you say the names of someone for whom you're reciting Kaddish out loud now. We recite Kaddish, thanking the source of life for the gift of their lives. We recite Kaddish for the 6 million murdered in our own time, which included 1.5 million of our children. We recite Kaddish for all of those who have no one left or no one willing to say Kaddish for them. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah. Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'me'omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpoar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shmei Tekucha v'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom niramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru. May that same source of wholeness that works through this world to hold it together despite it all. May that same source work through us this Rosh Hashanah, this Yom Kippur, this coming year in such a way that we might contribute to a world that is more whole, therefore one step closer to peace, as together we say, Amen. You may be seated. We're going to close our services with the Sefer Chaim. We're going to ask you to do something a little differently this year. We're going to ask, as we close our services, that you remain seated because the clergy are going to leave. Everyone on the Bema is going to leave. We're going to leave and we're going to process out through these doors because we want to greet you. We want to see you. We want to kiss you and hug you. So we're going to be all the way at the back. So if you'll stay seated through this closing number, we will be at the back outside ready to greet you at Oneg and ready to wish you a Shana Tova.
We are so blessed to have with us the cause brothers Jeff and Dave for our annual tradition that began at our 50th anniversary of KI, and we turned 64 this year as a congregation, as a community. So 14 years ago, they commissioned this and I commissioned this, they composed it in memory of their beloved dad, and now their beloved parents. The Sefer Chaim.
Shalom
proper sustenance, may we be remembered and inscribed. We and all your people, the house of Israel, for a good life and for peace. Blessed are you, compassionate maker of peace. As you find us back there, please help us welcome our new development director, Debbie Tarani, who's here with us. She started in April, so she's had 12 years of fundraising experience. We poached her from you, yeah, we're not going to say where. So please make sure you greet her as well. Bring your food. Please, you'll find info in the back tables. Grab everything. We're doing a cruise this summer. We're doing all kinds of awesome things. So grab information as our choir sings for you as we exit to Hine Mato.